back in the chair with you is always the best way to enjoy a Thursday. I love that we get to feast on football later tonight in Madison. Send somebody to a Packers game, Nags. It's the best part of the football feast that's live at 5.
Hell yes.
And then to be able to carry the G on the same day that the Brewers are going to go win game 3 and start the shock of the world in the LCS. It's a hell of a way to start out the day, man. And I appreciate you carrying the G and waking up early with us today.
Oh, I mean, it's nothing. I felt kind of like, oh, this is pretty early. But then I saw Levering out there getting ready to watch the sunrise out in LA, and I thought, the least I can do is get up for 10 a.m. Eastern time.
When he was out standing there and it was as pitch black as it possibly could be, kind of like when we walk in here to the Iron Jack Studios.
Right.
The level of respect that I just had for that man, he was already way up here through the bleeping roof.
No doubt.
That was amazing.
Speaking of the last segment, I just can't get past the fact that you didn't ask Tim Allen how the spaghetti was and find out, like,
I tried to. He was
the meal. Like, how did after all of that, how was the meal? I need to know. Like, we need to get back on that.
Yeah, that's fair. That was the Miss Lincoln. Other than that, how was the play? Like, I should have made sure that I added that one in there because it would have hit the respect. If I know Tim though, he just packed it in, made a pizza, and then later on maybe had the spaghetti at about 12 o'clock at night.
You know what he probably did? He probably had a Luigi's Original Pizza. Feed the whole family with Luigi's Original Pizza. Thin, crispy crust and flavors everyone can agree on. All your favorites are there. Pepperoni, deluxe. They even have a breakfast pizza, Billy. We could have it right now. What's better than sharing the pizza you grew up with at a birthday party, football game, or family get-together? I don't know. Can any other pizza do that? Luigi's can. Find Luigi's Original in your local grocery freezer aisle. Luigi's Pizza. Taste the tradition. They have a breakfast pizza.
The breakfast pizza is something that is hard to perfect, but when done correctly, is an absolute weapon. Kind of like what Kyler Murray can be when he plays to his absolute potential coming up. Nags, I am fascinated with how this game is going to end up being played on Sunday. And I know we still go back maybe just a tick as the victory to the Bengals left a lot of people frustrated. A lot of people frustrated.
Of course, Billy.
Of course. I anticipated them being Nags on Packers OT when the first call we got was, I got to say, I don't understand all the excitement and optimism on this program right now. And I don't like it very much.
I love it. That
was the first one out of the gates, and I'm like, they just won by 2 scores, and they won a game for the first time in a month.
You knew it was going to be a long night after that game. I knew it. You knew it. We all knew it. And look, I get it, man. People have their perspective, their feelings, whatever, and whatever it is, however you feel, it is legitimate. It is your feeling. Like, I'm not dismissing that, but it does speak to what we've often called entitled town. Like, oh, did you win a game by 2 scores that you had control of the entire time, but they didn't do it in the way that you wanted them to? Man, that really does speak to folks being kind of numb to having a good football team. That's what it feels like, right? And again, those are valid thoughts, feelings, what have you, but it does say, like, wow, you kind of take winning for granted. Look no further than, I don't know, the Bills the last couple times out the gate. Philadelphia, the feeling around that team at the moment, man, every win is precious. Every win is great. You got to savor it and enjoy it, man. If you lose the enjoyment from winning, all you're doing is marinating in the losses. And that's a miserable way to exist.
Yeah, that's not a life that I want to live, and nor is one that I think Packers fans want to or will ever become accustomed to. Like they're too. The expectations are very, very high, and that's a good thing.
As they should be. It's title town, right? It's title.
No doubt about it. You've set a precedent and a standard that needs to be lived up to, but there does also have to be an understanding of what living up to the expectations are. Like, winning games in the NFL is a very, very difficult thing. And it's a week-to-week process. And when for a week and a half or a week after, 5 days after the Flacco news comes down, we do consternation radio and conversation about, well, he knows our defense. He knows it so well. He's seen it so many different times. Then when it doesn't look, then when he functions properly as an NFL starter, it's like, well, what was wrong? Well, they played football on the other side, and they got one of the greatest wide receivers that I've seen with my own 2 eyes in person, Nags.
Yes, sir.
Jamar Chase. That man is disgusting. Yep. And he was as advertised, but you still won the game by 2 scores. And I think you put in something there. And I watched gut reactions as well on the way back with Drew Olson after the game and after Packers OT was, tell me where the game truly felt in peril. Like I even at 10-7, I struggled to feel like the game was in doubt because instantly the Packers answer with a dominating drive, and they do it in the fashion and the way that I think they want to be built, and that's with Josh Jacobs at the forefront of all of it.
Oh, 100%. Jacobs getting kind of unleashed, so to speak, and really eating. That opens up everything on offense. Everything flows better. It was great to watch him be able to kind of make hay, especially off that right side, man. Jordan Morgan, popular whipping boy for many Packers fans. Yeah. He had a very good game there at right guard. Now, the run game getting going, you would expect it to, right, against a Bengals defense that has been very porous against the run. But, okay, so the team did exactly what it should do, right? Mm-hmm. They had a dominant performance on the ground against a team with a subpar run defense, okay? But now, can you keep it going? The fact that they had their 5 preferred starters along the offensive line for the majority of that game, hopefully we get that once again down in Arizona, and they can build a little momentum, a little cohesion, banked reps together and things like that. Those are things that, pay off in the long run that perhaps don't get appreciated in the moment. But, man, I'm telling you, when you look at the tape from that game, you should get really excited for the possibilities, especially on offense, because, man, you mentioned Josh Jacobs, but the way they've got Golden cooking now,
yes,
with Christian Watson potentially returning this weekend, oh, baby. There are so many different ways that Matt LaFleur can attack this Cardinals defense. I'm getting excited just thinking about it.
Well, and what it didn't excite folks that we got calls on. That was not exciting, Nags. It was frustrating. It's frustrating that we have all these guys that get the football. Why is Tucker Kraft not getting 7 targets a game? Why is Romeo Doubs getting targets? Why is Dontavian Wicks getting the ball thrown to him? Right. 5 targets for Josh Jacobs. So I think it's frustrating when what you talk about in how the team is being built is a embarrassment of riches is the wrong way of putting it. It's a little too excited.
Champagne problems, perhaps?
You got a ton of different guys. You have so many different ways to beat teams, and that's why you build a team with multiple pass-catching options, so there can be games where Tucker Kraft has 2 plays and a touchdown, and you don't necessarily need to lay everything out on the table. I think there's something, too, also, Nags, where maybe they went into that game with a really good playbook, and you thought coming out of a bye, you should be so much sharper, so much more prepared, and so much more dominant. But in the bye, I think they also worked ahead, not only into Cincinnati, but for the next, 13 games that they got to play into the regular season. I think that might have been more of the plan than just let's lay everything we have in all of this extra preparation into the 2-3 Bengals.
It's interesting too. You talk about the expectation of being focused and coming out crisp and clean on offense in particular. I've not found that to be the case, at least with Matt LaFleur's teams. It does feel like when they come out of a bye, now eventually, seemingly, they do end up picking it up, and they certainly did on Sunday, but they do seem to feel like they have to kind of get back into a rhythm. And I think you saw that play out early in this game where the defense pitched a shutout in the first half. No one seems to remember that, and that allowed them to have control of the game throughout. But the fact that they did pitch a shutout in the first half and only scored 10 of their own points, the frustration is there. The fact that they didn't come out looking like, a well-oiled machine and only scored 10, etc., take away points on the opening drive, the Love interception and things like that. I get that frustration, but it does seem like this is a team that does need that time on task, that time on the grass to kind of get into a rhythm, to get back into the flow of playing ball. Mm-hmm. And, man, like I said, by the time second half rolled around, they were marching up and down the field. Mm-hmm. Couldn't be stopped, So, I get the frustrations, but this is a team that the more they play together, the more they stack these offensive kind of outputs, performances together, I think this is a team that's going to continue to grow and really be a problem for opposing defenses. Again, I don't see any way that they don't march up and down the field on the Cardinals.
I see them getting better, and that's exactly where you want your team to be in the middle of the season in week 7. In the middle of October, you don't want to be a finished product. Had somebody call in and say, why can we not just be dominant? Why can we not just
Because
dominate?
it's not 1996.
Well, and I was like, Nags, who's the dominant football team in the NFL right now? Because this year in particular, there isn't one.
There ain't. There is not. The closest thing to a really good to great team at the moment, I would say, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're the one team that is a real force, right? On both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
But even they have their issues.
Even they, I believe 3 of their games they've won on last minute comeback drives.
Yep.
So like there's something to you have to win the game that you're in, and I think that's where
literally all that matters. It's all that matters.
And I think that's where learning how to win a number of different ways helps you later on into the season. I think we've talked about this, especially with LaFleur teams, a lot of when the game doesn't go to script, go to plan, some things can get haywire. Learning lessons as to how this group wins a lot of those different variety of games, that's a big thing to learn and bank into December and January. The Cardinals in particular, Timmy and I were talking about it earlier, they're a confounding outfit. I don't know what
there's talent on that team, man. There is talent on that Cardinals team.
I think Trey McBride is the best young tight end in football.
Agreed.
I think he's
he gave the Packers all sorts of hell last year in Lambeau.
And Kyler Murray is a remarkably talented young man that just hasn't been able to put it all together. But they got good pieces, even on the defense. They got really talented guys. Maybe you're able to beat them into submission and trade you Calais Campbell before they get up onto the bus. But there's some good pieces out on that football team.
That seems to be a recurring theme. Andy Herman said the same thing. Can we just talk to them while we're down there about a potential trade prior to the deadline, get a little defensive tackle help, for a Super Bowl push? I'm all for it, but I don't see the Packers doing it. I don't see the Cardinals saying, but that'd be fun. I'm all for it.
More than anything, Nags, because I want somebody on the Packers to get and have the Walter Payton Man of the Year logo and patch on the chest playing for the Packers.
That is hot, right? It's
a great look. We need somebody to be able to have that one.
Now, you mentioned Kyler Murray. I'm interested to see what happens here today when their injury report comes out, because he was listed as limited with that foot injury yesterday. And I tell you what, with Brissett back there this past weekend, that passing offense looked a little, I want to say, just less disjointed.
Yes.
A little more efficient. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned McBride, man. You talk about a problem for the Packers. He was a problem last year. He'll be a problem again this season. No matter who's at quarterback, but I kind of don't want to see Brissett. I just think they looked very, I don't know, like I said, efficient on offense. And in a way that kind of unsettled me, as far as we've seen the last 2 games where they've had these veteran, longtime quarterbacks who are able to paper cut the Packers defense to death. Mm-hmm. That I don't love this idea. Not a fan.
And I'm with you, Nags. I actually am more concerned about Marvin Harrison Jr.'s availability almost than Murray, because to the point, if Harrison is out, I think that's one of the better young options in the game on the outside, right?
And he's really kind of come along here in these last couple of weeks, no doubt.
Big time. His film looks a lot better, and he's gaining confidence every snap. And the efficiency is the right way of putting it. I think Brissett throws for 300 yards. Murray's most is maybe 225 on the year, if that. Yeah. So the rhythm and flow of the offense looked a lot more to design with Brissett back there, and he's a seasoned vet, right? and he can play.
I mean, he's seen everything.
So much ball, he's seen everything, and maybe those are the guys that have given the Packers more problems.
100%
this year are the guys that have just seen anything and everything. So you can't throw a lot of exotics and surprise anybody.
Yeah, there certainly seems to be a bit of a theme, though. They seem to handle Goff just fine in week 1. But I'll tell you what, it's funny you mentioned the idea that there's no dominant teams, and I don't know what you got on Packers OT, but I certainly heard a lot of, why can't they be like the Lions and just put people away? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the Lions are beating up on bad teams, no doubt about it. But then what happens when they run into a competent defense like they did on Sunday night? Man, again, and that's why it's so important just to win the game you're in. But I will say, it would be nice, Billy, if we could get into these second halves and just run away with it. I'm down with that idea, because they need, and I underscore, italicize, put it in neon lights, need to start creating some turnovers. Because if they do that and give this offense just one more opportunity to put points on the board, then instead of a 2-score lead, we're talking a 3-score lead. And then they're really able to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback with only 4 and just let that secondary eat.
Next,
but that needs to happen for that to play out.
And I don't know, it's just getting longer and longer, later and later into the season. I don't know a team that has gone this far, this long into the year without forcing a fumble. Without forcing a fumble, let alone.
I think they forced one that went out of bounds, if I remember right.
Okay, all right.
But that's it.
That's the only one. So, like, you need to at least poke the ball out, because all throughout training camp, while you were there, while we were there doing shows, and Wayne and I talked about it on Monday as well, like, that was the biggest point of emphasis that you got outside of swarming to the football. And in the first 4 series, the first half of the game, that swarming nature was right there again. Now, the quick passing game, Nags, I think, counteracts some of that, because it's a lot of catch and get down. So it slows everybody's pursuit. But the first half, that is what the defense is supposed to look like, but without one key component, and that's the peanut punch out. That's the ripping out of the football, because there's a lot of hats there. Somebody needs to be able to pry that thing out and be able to force a couple of these turnovers, because that is the one missing piece to what does look like a pretty dang good puzzle of a defense that you have right now.
In the defense of the Ball King, remember this summer, the Ball King, he was all the rage, all the storyline, because of exactly what you're talking about, the emphasis on punching out the football, getting after the ball. If you turn on the tape, you see the defense doing this. Like, you see them in groups, especially where first guy's wrapping them up and the second guy's coming in and trying to punch at the ball, right? The effort is there. They just haven't had that moment where the ball is being, maybe a little lazily carried, maybe catch a guy from behind, etc. The effort is there, which gives me a lot of hope that, the old adage, this, Billy, the old adage that the turnovers, they come in bunches, because some of it is luck. Some of it is timing. Some of it is effort. But some of it is luck, and they just haven't had great luck in this regard yet. I think that time is coming. There will be a spate of 2 or 3 fumbles that they create, because the effort has been there. Now, has been there down in, down out every single time? Maybe not. But certainly the majority of these, catches, rushes, whatever you're talking about, the effort of getting the ball out has been theirs. And that tells me that eventually that'll start to get put on the carpet. That's going to come. Hopefully this Sunday.
Yeah, hopefully this Sunday. The results need to follow through, and you're right. Like the it's not for a lack of trying. And maybe it does happen where all of a sudden, like, whoa, 3 forced fumbles in one game. This team is just waking up. But you get a couple of, I'm not trying to discredit anybody else, but you get a couple of nice get right games. A couple of nice opportunities to get yourself in a perfect feeling before,
oh boy,
maybe my favorite matchup. Now, a lot different this time around that we'll see at the end of the month than when the last quarterback faced off against the former team for the first time.
Yes,
this one I'm very, very excited for. That one I was very much angst-filled for.
Yeah,
but I'm looking forward to the team getting right before they get out there to Acrisure Stadium.
Well, I was just going to say, we got to go 1-0 every week. Got to go 1-0 this Sunday first before we get to this monumental matchup on Sunday Night Football against the former Green Bay Packers legend quarterback. We're not talking about that, Billy. We're not living there. We're not in that headspace right now. Because as everyone online will tell you, our focus determines the reality, Billy. You, me, people in the media, anybody with a microphone, what we talk about manifests itself on the field. So, Billy, if you and I are talking about Aaron Rodgers in 2 weeks, the Packers are thinking about Aaron Rodgers going on in 2 weeks. They're not focused on Arizona, Billy, because you and I are talking about it.
Little do you know that they watch our YouTube stream in the
obviously
locker room.
It's on in the locker room right now. That newfangled locker room, part of it was putting YouTube in all the TVs, and they're watching it on the Cheesehead TV YouTube channel right now. Rashawn Gary's like, oh, I can't wait to sack Aaron Rodgers. We play Arizona first. Well, I don't care. I'm like, they're talking about Aaron Rodgers. I can't wait for Aaron Rodgers. Totally forget about Arizona, man. We've already won that game. Because this is how the world works, Billy.
The best thing is the Luigi's Pizza is just flowing through that locker room, too. Because every single time you start talking about it, you're throwing 2 or 3 into that.
Yes, sir. Love it. All right, I'm hearing music, which means we got bills to pay, which we're going to do. And then when we get back, pause. When we get back, we're going to talk about this matchup with the Cardinals. That's Billy. I'm Aaron. It's Carry the G Radio here on iHeart somewhere.
And now a look back at This Week in History on iHeartRadio.
This week in 1931, we lost one of the greatest inventors of our time, Thomas Edison, at age 84. His inventions, which include the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and early versions of the electric light bulb, had a widespread impact on the modern industrialized world. This week in 1947, U.S. Air Force Captain Chuck Yeager becomes the first person to fly faster than the speed of sound. Because of the secrecy of the project, Yeager's achievement was not announced until June of 1948. This week in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis begins, bringing the U.S. and the Soviet Union to the brink of nuclear conflict. Photographs taken by a high-altitude U-2 spy plane offered proof that Soviet-made medium-range missiles in Cuba were now stationed 90 miles off the American coastline. During the next 2 weeks, the United States and the Soviet Union would come as close to nuclear war as they ever had. And this week in 2007, comedian and actor Drew Carey takes over hosting duties on The Price is Right, as his first episode airs on the longest-running daytime game show in television history. Carey replaced Bob Barker, who retired at the age of 83 after hosting the show for 35 years.
And that's what happened. Thanks for listening to This Week in History on iHeartRadio. And now a look back at This Week in History on iHeartRadio.
This week in 1867, the U.S. formally takes possession of Alaska after purchasing the territory from Russia for $7.2 million, or less than 2 cents an acre. Public opinion of the purchase turned more favorable when gold was discovered in Nome, Alaska in 1899, sparking a gold rush. Alaska became the 49th state on January 3rd, 1959. This week in 1931, gangster Al Capone is convicted of tax evasion and later sentenced to 11 years in prison and fined $80,000, signaling the downfall of one of the most notorious criminals of the 1920s and 30s. Capone began serving his time at the U.S. Penitentiary in Atlanta, but amid accusations that he was manipulating the system and receiving cushy treatment, he was transferred to the maximum security lockup at Alcatraz Island. This week in 1973, the Arab-dominated Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, announces a decision to cut oil exports to the U.S. and other nations that provided military aid to Israel in the Yom Kippur War of October 1973, which would eventually cause a major energy crisis in the U.S. and Europe. The embargo was lifted in March of 1974. And this week in 1985, the first Blockbuster video rental store opens in Dallas, Texas. At a time when most video stores were small-scale operations featuring a limited selection of titles, Blockbuster opened with some 8,000 tapes displayed on shelves around the store and a computerized checkout process.
And that's what happened. Thanks for listening to This Week in History on iHeartRadio.
Now, a year in rock spotlight, 1973.
Led Zeppelin released their fifth album, Houses of the Holy. It goes to number 1 in the US and the UK and yields the top 20 hit Dire Maker.
But I still love you so, and I can't let you go. I love you. Baby, I love you.
The Doobie Brothers released their top 10 album, The Captain and Me, with the singles Long Train Running and China Grove. And in June, Joe Walsh and Barnstorm have a top 10 album buoyed by the single Rocky Mountain Way. Also in June of 73, George Harrison scores a number 1 single, Give Me Love, from the number 1 album, Living in the Material World. And Chicago's 6th album goes to number 1 with 2 top 10 hits, Just You and Me and Feeling Stronger Every Day. In July, 600,000 Jam Watkins Glen for Summer Jam, the largest rock festival ever held in the U.S. It features the band, the Grateful Dead, and the Allman Brothers. And in August, those same Allman Brothers released their first album after the death of Duane Allman and had their only hit single with Ramblin' Man, which goes to number 2.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more from 1973. Coming up. We call it Wagertainment.
All right, place your bets. Place your bets.
VSiN, every night at 6. Presented by Potawatomi Sportsbook. Bet above the rest on Fox Sports 920.
iHeartRadio is the easy-to-use app for music and radio. Download the free iHeartRadio app today.
When Marlon Shirley was 5, he lost his foot. Today, as the world's fastest amputee, he runs the 100 meters in less time than it takes to listen to this. Overcoming. Pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life.
Snip to love. Waits. Still looking. Throws right side over the shoulder. Game Green. Touchdown. Green Bay Packers. Here's the snap to Jordan Love. Fires right side. Got his man. Leaping end zone. Touchdown. Romeo Doubs. And they embrace him in the right corner of the end zone. Under pressure, Love looks, beats it down the right side, making a jump, catching it a dot, tiptoes into the end zone. A sensational touchdown.
Carry the G Radio rolls on here on a Thursday. We'll be back Tuesday next week, but this week it's a Thursday. Aaron Nagler, Bill Schmid coming to you with, this Cardinals game. Billy, I got to tell you, I understand the idea that it could potentially be, more get right, more get into the groove, build momentum, all of that. And I understand you look at a 4-game losing streak and you think, okay, this is a team where we should just walk in there and wax them. But as I mentioned earlier, they do have a bunch of talent on this team. And this is a team that's been in every one of those games almost right up till the end. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, they had the horrible snafu, as it were, dropping the ball before the goal line and a lot of drama around that. But, this team is talented enough to not only give you problems, but to steal one from the Packers if they're not careful.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Negs, you say that they've been in every game. They've had leads in every game. I mean, that Titans game.
Late into the game, yeah.
Late into the game. That Titans game, Matt LaFleur said that it was going to be teach tape what not to do, how the Packers flawedly, that's the way I was trying to say it, very flawedly executed their late game strategy against the Cowboys. Well, it'd be teach tape to how to lose any game possible. Just commit as many self-inflicted wounds as the Cardinals did in that final 8 minutes against the Titans and literally hand a game over to one of the worst teams football's ever seen. That is how you lose that game, and they've found ways to do it. However, they've found themselves right in all of these games, so they're just good enough to be dangerous. They have a coach who's been fined by the organization for hitting a player on the sidelines.
$100,000.
This should be a let's continue to worry about us. Get right might be disrespectful, but enjoy the bit of home cooking that you'll get on the road. Because, I mean, you think that there's stadiums that get taken over. State Farm Stadium is up for rent every single week.
Yes, sir.
And Packers fans, I can only assume, are going to be buying up that.
I know plenty personally. In fact, our social media maven, Tyler Herrick, he'll be in the house.
Tyler?
Oh, yeah. Monty Moore from Ahead of the Pack, our podcast, he'll be in the house. It's going to be a Packers strong contingent. I don't know if they'll take it over fully, but there will be a big Packers fan presence at this game.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. And the Snowbirds maybe just, orchestrated their schedule of arrivals, to make sure that it lines up here. Like my folks are going down to Florida next week. If the game would have been in Miami, I assume that they would have. Maybe I'll stop a week earlier, right?
Well, the Packers are playing. Yeah.
What kind of fan in person do you think our boy Tyler's going to be? It's just going to be as many cold ones as possible, screaming his lungs out and out by like the third quarter on the voice variety, or is he just going to be biting his nails, nervous and screaming his lungs out at Cardinal fans in particular?
I think it's a combination. I have to say I have not been to a game with Tyler yet, but I have watched somewhat with him at times. I'll say he is exemplary in the sense that he won't attack Cardinals fans. He won't go after them. He'll root for his team, which is what you should do when you're on the road. You don't want to be antagonistic. You know, you want to root for your team, which is great. That's what it should be.
But you do have to make sure that when things are going well, that you are being very, very loud, because there's a reason why you're there. And there's a reason why other people are looking in to say, oh, that jerk came in here to take over our stadium. But I imagine that Cardinal fans just get resigned to it. Like,
they're used to it at this
point. Yeah.
I don't know. It can't be anything worse than what's going to happen when I take my youngest daughter to the Giants game here in a couple weeks.
Well, that's fair.
First time she's ever even expressed any kind of interest in the Packers at all, let alone going to a game. But she's really into the NFL suddenly because of TikTok, which is insane to me. Only spent 17 years of her life trying to indoctrinate her into the Green Bay Packers, and she's had zero interest until this year because of TikTok.
I appreciate that it's that T word. I thought it was going to be Taylor. It was the one that maybe.
Well, that's what got her interested in Travis Kelce and kind of wondering what's going on with the Chiefs kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
But this year she's actually really gotten into Jordan Love and Josh Allen, which is an odd juxtaposition, and I've had to kind of be diplomatic about it. But Ronica Stone's TikTok account has really helped. I'm sorry, now Ronica Love's TikTok account has really helped in this regard. So.
I was unfamiliar with Ronica's game, so that's
she's phenomenal.
She's big in the talk.
I tell you what, man, like my biggest thing at Cheesehead TV for the longest time, forever, like was I don't want to know about the players' personal lives. Like that's their business. But you know, the way the algorithm works, if it's Packers connected, it's going to get shown to me. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, every time I see anything from her, it's incredibly well done and very smart and very thoughtful. And that apparently, yes, Olive's seen it too. And that's really legit. One of the driving forces has got her interested in the Packers.
Well, that's awesome. Listen, however it ends up working, that's a great moment for you. Now it is tough because I can only imagine proximity helps, and Josh Allen's a cool cat, like an easy guy to cheer for. So you need to get Olive fighting into conversations like this about Jordan Love, and that's really when she gets dialed in. Once she starts defending his honor in sports conversations, that's when you know, Nags, you're locked in. Jeffrey from Milwaukee on the Talking Text line said, one of my friends sent me this hot take about Jordan Love during the Bengals game.
Let's go.
He said the Packers will not make the playoffs this year, and that Love isn't a franchise quarterback due to his vision of the field and IQ as a football player. Also, that Love consistently misses wide open guys. I had to spend the whole game defending Love, but my man just wouldn't have it. I asked him if he was getting a job at ESPN, which he didn't understand what I meant by that, because I guess just people are crazy. So once Olive starts understanding that she can blow this guy up with facts and opinion, that's when you know you're dialed in. But there were a number of different takes on Jordan after the game against Cincinnati, and Nags, I didn't fully understand it. I thought he played well.
First of all, to your texter, thank you for being a soldier, and thank you for your service. It's ridiculous the way, and to the texter's point, like homeboy, whoever this was not going to have their opinion swayed, no matter what you presented them with. And there are certainly plenty of those folks out there. But I mean, every metric tells you that Jordan Love is playing insane ball, right? Not only that, but he is legitimately the best quarterback in the NFL on third down at the moment. And the Packers, because of it, are on a historic rate of third down conversions on offense. Like it has not been done in Green Bay. And that's with the likes of Holmgren, Favre, McCarthy, Rodgers. Like none of them have ever converted on third down the way this 2025 Packers team has. And a big part of that, the biggest part of that, is Jordan Love extending drives, making opportunities to score more points. They are marching up and down the field on people. And this idea that Jordan Love doesn't see the field, but he misses wide open guys. Well, that's agenda driven. People are pointing out there are certainly always plays where, you go with the ball over here, but there was a guy over there who was open. Yeah, that's called football. That's progression read. He's going where the progression is leading him, and there's the guy first in line in the progression. He's open. He's throwing it there. Now, was there a guy on the other side who was more open? Probably, maybe. But that's not how they're taught. That's not how they practice. That's not how the offense is run. And this other idea that he has a low football IQ, Jordan Love has forgotten more football than anyone listening to my voice right now has ever known. So these kind of ad hoc attacks on Love are frustrating, unbelievably ridiculous, but they won't go away until this team wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the last part, Nags, is not specific to only him. That's generally every quarterback in football, right?
Yep.
Like they get these knocks until they win the Super Bowl, and then if you're Jalen Hurts, they continue after you win the Super Bowl.
I was just gonna say, man, they killed Hurts forever, and then he won a Super Bowl, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's great," and now they're killing him again. So like, the low football IQ, I would counter with almost the entirety of the back half of last year as the best example that his IQ is actually a lot higher than he will get credit for, especially pre-snap. Now, post-snap, I think you're always going to be a work in progress, right? If you're the best quarterback that you're going to be, again, in year 3 or 4 as a starter, that's probably going to be a problem moving forward and later into your career. I think he's getting better at it through in mid-play, being able to understand when to take the shots with his legs, when to be able to push the ball into a tight window. But the pre-snap stuff that he did a year ago, canning and getting them into right calls, again, this year on third down, the direct correlation of what they're doing on third down is what he's doing at the line of scrimmage, diagnosing what the opponent is doing, getting them into the right call that's been laid out in front of them, and just being smart on the fly. That is directly against that. I think, what he does between the whistle and missing some throws, sure. Like I can absolutely agree that, there's some misses and some layups that have to get hit, but I think you see those becoming fewer and farther between. Fewer and fewer, yeah. And like
the years is harder in one that you don't learn necessarily later in life. You're this good at it this early, it's only going to get better.
Look no further than him missing Musgrave on that, play over the middle, and it just airmails it. And he got asked afterwards, like, was there a miscommunication? Did Musgrave maybe read something different than you did? Nope, I just sailed the ball, just a bad throw. And what does he do the very next play? Hits Golden up the left sideline with a gorgeous drop in the bucket dime. This is a guy who, and I love that you brought up the can plays. I'm glad you brought that up. Speaking of the low football IQ of Jordan Love, this is our buddy Dusty, who used to write for us at Cheesehead TV, now is at Acme Packing Company. Highly recommend checking out all his stuff. But he put this out there the other day. Jordan Love canned 5 plays against the Bengals. Those plays averaged 5 yards and picked up 1 touchdown. In weeks 1 through 4, he averaged 5.5 can calls per game and averaged 5.2 yards. That means every time he gets to the line of scrimmage and sees whatever the defense is presenting and cans a play, which means he checks to a different play because there's always 2 plays called. And yeah, Andrew, as you're pointing out, usually you can tell because he's tapping his helmet. That means get to play number 2 to try and take advantage of whatever's happening with the defense. They have gained 5 yards at least. That's a win for the offense. This is what drives me nuts. This is the kind of thing I talk about when I say there is so much that goes into playing the position that for whatever reason, people say stupid stuff like, oh, he's got a low football IQ, just can't even comprehend what he's dealing with and in charge of out on the field.
Yeah, and I also think the confidence that everybody else in the huddle clearly is gaining with him is another really, really imperative part of his development. Like you see in the tenser moments of games that everybody is clearly looking towards Jordan for the answers. And that's what you want for your young quarterback. When you hear different guys talk about him, it's only with the most glowing of remarks. Again, that's what you want from your young quarterback. But to see how he's making other players around him better and continuing to develop, there's a reason why Tucker Kraft took a big leap. And I'm not saying that Tucker Kraft doesn't deserve the credit. He deserves almost all of it. But you don't take those leaps, especially on the outside. And like what you're seeing, Matthew Golden, how comfortable he's getting this early into his NFL career without a signal caller that makes things a lot easier on those young players around him.
Speaking of Jordan Love and Matthew Golden, that is our heart-stopping play of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that third down conversion late in the game, the one moment where the possibility kind of arose where maybe, possibly here, the Bengals might get a stop and maybe get the ball back. And maybe, just maybe, the Bengals have a chance. Well, that was snuffed out by an incredible third down conversion between Jordan Love and Matthew Golden. Big gain. And look, the fact that Jordan Love is legit getting hit as he throws it, and Golden adjusts his route beneath the safety. You talk about two guys on the same page this early into their respective kind of tenure together. That's exciting stuff. I love that play. That play was absolutely almost schoolyard, but also two guys who, again, are on the same page and just no ball. That was such a great shot.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is just a couple of guys that had a smooth enough rhythm to where it wasn't going to get. And it was very similar to what we saw throughout training camp. Was when on time and on rhythm, Golden's hands are
so
elite, especially not breaking stride. And you're just scratching the surface of it, especially with that play right there in particular.
Absolutely love it. The Heartstopping Play of the Week is brought to you by ThedaCare, which is a proud sponsor of Carry the G Radio. Every great team needs a solid foundation, and that starts with health. ThedaCare is proud to support our local athletes and families with care that goes the distance. Kind of like we go the distance here at Carry the G Radio, Billy. Each and every week. That's what we do.
To the end zone, baby.
Right to the end zone. Straight shot, one play. I know we've been doing a lot of dinking and dunking. The Packers offense been kind of, matriculating it down the field. I think they get back to a possible, 2-play drive this weekend against Arizona, much like they did against Detroit in week 1.
Well, or like they did against the Cardinals, I believe last year. I believe it was a take the top off the defense touchdown to Christian Watson,
yes,
47-yard post route. Now maybe Watson's healthy enough to go this week. I sure hope so. If not, that arrival and that emergence is coming soon, and it is going to be a welcome sight.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful, much like the final segment of Carry the G Radio this week will be beautiful because that's how we roll. We'll be back with Billy Aaron here on iHeart on the flip side. Talk to you soon.
And now a look back at This Week in History on iHeartRadio.
This week in 1931, we lost one of the greatest inventors of our time, Thomas Edison, at age 84. His inventions, which include the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and early versions of the electric light bulb, had a widespread impact on the modern industrialized world. This week in 1947, U.S. Air Force Captain Chuck Yeager becomes the first person to fly faster than the speed of sound. Because of the secrecy of the project, Yeager's achievement was not announced until June of 1948. This week in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis begins, bringing the U.S. and the Soviet Union to the brink of nuclear conflict. Photographs taken by a high-altitude U-2 spy plane offered proof that Soviet-made medium-range missiles in Cuba were now stationed 90 miles off the American coastline. During the next 2 weeks, the United States and the Soviet Union would come as close to nuclear war as they ever had. And this week in 2007, comedian and actor Drew Carey takes over hosting duties on The Price is Right, as his first episode airs on the longest-running daytime game show in television history. Carey replaced Bob Barker, who retired at the age of 83 after hosting the show for 35 years.
And that's what happened. Thanks for listening to This Week in History on iHeartRadio. And now a look back at This Week in History on iHeartRadio.
This week in 1931, we lost one of the greatest inventors of our time, Thomas Edison, at age 84. His inventions, which include the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and early versions of the electric light bulb, had a widespread impact on the modern industrialized world. This week in 1947, U.S. Air Force Captain Chuck Yeager becomes the first person to fly faster than the speed of sound. Because of the secrecy of the project, Yeager's achievement was not announced until June of 1948. This week in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis begins, bringing the U.S. and the Soviet Union to the brink of nuclear conflict. Photographs taken by a high-altitude U-2 spy plane offered proof that Soviet-made medium-range missiles in Cuba were now stationed 90 miles off the American coastline. During the next 2 weeks, the United States and the Soviet Union would come as close to nuclear war as they ever had. And this week in 2007, comedian and actor Drew Carey takes over hosting duties on The Price is Right, as his first episode airs on the longest-running daytime game show in television history. Carey replaced Bob Barker, who retired at the age of 83 after hosting the show for 35 years.
And that's what happened. Thanks for listening to This Week in History on iHeartRadio.
Looking back at the world of sports, it's the iHeartRadio Weekend Sports Time Capsule.
What's shaking, fellow sports fans? It's Andy West, and I'm here to take you on a journey back to this week in sports history. We'll start off back in 1923. The New York Yankees win their first World Series, beating the New York Giants 4-2. To date, the Yankees have won the World Series 27 times. The next closest team is the St. Louis Cardinals with 11. This week in 1967, Major League Baseball's American League votes to allow the athletics team to move from Kansas City to Oakland and expand the league to 12 teams in 1971, with teams in Kansas City and Seattle. This week in 1981, LA's Rick Monday hits a ninth-inning home run to give the Dodgers a 2-1 victory over the Montreal Expos and the National League pennant. This week in 1983, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Toronto Maple Leafs combined for the fastest 5 goals in NHL history, 84 seconds. This week in 2014, DeMarco Murray becomes the first running back in NFL history to start a season with 7 straight 100-yard games in a 31-21 win over the New York Giants. Murray, with 128 yards and a touchdown, breaks Hall of Famer Jim Brown's 56-year-old record. And this week in 2015, Jalen Watts-Jackson scoops up a flubbed punt attempt and lumbers 38 yards for a touchdown on the final play of the game, giving number 7 Michigan State a shocking 27-23 win over number 12 Michigan at the Big House.
And that's just some of what happened this week in sports history. The Weekend Sports Time Capsule on iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Elton John to talk about the power of a song.
Take someone somewhere else. God knows I've been taken so many places by other writers, other performers. That is the power of the song and the power of the performer. Without music, my life would have been, it's been a constant, whether I've, from 3 years old when I started to play, it's been a constant, whether I've been happy, sad, breaking records, being at my lowest ebb ever, I've always had music with me. And it's always got me through the good and the bad.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Elton John and all your favorite artists.
In third down conversion, snap to Love. He waits. He lofts. Left side for Golden. Over the shoulder. Catch. Oh, what a sensational
What a catch.
Matthew Golden, 34-yard line on the near left side in Cincinnati territory. A great throw and a tremendous catch. They beat Cam Taylor-Britt for 35 yards.
Once upon a midnight deal.
Wrapping up Carry the G Radio on this Thursday prior to the showdown with the Cardinals in the desert on Sunday. Man, just hearing Wayne and Larry, that's the stuff right there. That's just sit back, crack open a Carry the G, and enjoy. You can't get better than that.
Can't say it better myself, brother. Like, that is as good as it gets, especially when, like, some people in these broadcast boot camps that they would teach and have different NFL players go.
I've been to a couple of those. Yeah.
Well, one thing that they wouldn't tell you to do is to do what Larry might do during some of the calls, which is, let your emotion out on the air first. Well, I'd tell you those people that they're flat out wrong. Nothing better than in the midst of the moment when you're hearing it play out and you are about to make the exact same emotional sound as Larry McCarron does when they pick up a 3rd and 6, the opponent does, and you go, oh. That's so good. You need more of that. All of a sudden, ball on the ground. Oh, get after a ball. Like, you need more of that. We need more of the emotion, and they are some of the biggest and best Packer backers on the microphone. It is awesome to be able to hear each and every.
And Wayne's so smooth with it. Like Larry, to your point, he's the emotion does come out, right? But Wayne, well, you can tell he's excited, whatever. He's so smooth. It's so well done. It's so professional. Unlike maybe his counterpart there to the west and across the river in Minneapolis. Like,
oh yeah, PA,
a little different.
Little
different.
Listen, styles make fights, and that is a definitely different style.
Yeah.
I will say this: I love. It's one of my guiltiest pleasures is on the NFL app.
Hell yes, especially when the Vikings lose a close one. Then that's pure comedy.
But then the worst thing is when you're sitting there like week 1, and I'm just loving up on how dismal their play is and how the call is going. Then all of a sudden it flips on a dime, and then in the fourth quarter they're happy.
Yeah.
Like I liked it a lot better in the first London or the first international game. They were ready to fight Steeler fans in Dublin. I mean, like it actually sounded like on the air they were going to get into a physical altercation. And then the next week I'm listening to the same thing, and all of a sudden they steal the game. I'm like,
they
this
steal it.
Happen?
No. I tell you what, though, that is like enemy listening is some of the best kind of fandom. When I lived in Chicago, man, after the Bears would lose, just gorging myself on Bears talk radio. I still do this every once in a while, but man, that is so fun.
Let's go to Jerry in Hammond, Indiana. Jerry, how do you feel about the Bears loss last night?
Yes,
miserable.
All of that.
Terrible.
All of that.
Out there.
Give it to me.
Hard.
Love it.
Now we got a couple of talking text line messages here, Negs. I wanted to hit. Curtin Grafton said, "Final segment, talk the corners, penalties, extending drives on key third downs, and PIs at key third down calls on the goal line. Also, why are teams scoring TDs at a high clip in the red zone right now?" Or that's also why teams are scoring a high clip in the red zone against.
When you put them in position, an easier position with said penalties, yeah, there's no doubt. And it is frustrating. Although I will say they played way more man in that game than I have seen them play in quite some time, which is an interesting choice when you're facing those wide receivers.
Amen.
Now, anyone who watched the game, if you go back and watch it, every single play, they are in position. They don't make plays on the ball. And that's what's frustrating for a team that even when they're not playing man, they're in zone and their eyes on the quarterback, right? That's the idea. It's a vision-based defense. You hear LaFleur, you hear Halfley talk about that. With the pass rush that they have and the ability they have to speed up the quarterback and the way that these opponents have faced them, right, and have attacked them with quick rhythm passing games, they have to be playing on the front balls of their feet, right? And they have to start attacking the ball. Sometimes, yes, you are going to get beat. Sometimes, yes, you're going to miss. But that's why you have a safety back there, right? That's why you have help. They have to start. And this gets back to the point of no turnovers being created, right?
Yeah.
They did a little better job, actually, of that in this game. But push came to shove towards the end. Sometimes you do just have to tip your cap because they, again, were in good positions. They were right there. But they were against two of the best wide receivers in the game. One in particular in Chase, who just made a couple of really phenomenal plays.
Oh, God. That one in the corner of the end zone, Negs, is one
against
of the
Nixon, who's in perfect position. He just gets underneath him. He can see the ball. Nixon can't.
Yeah.
And again, just Nixon doesn't make a play on the ball.
And there's maybe one or two guys in the world that are making that catch. And Jamar Chase happened to be the one on the other side. I'm right there. Like he's in good position on a couple of those. You tip your cap on the other side. That's why those guys are getting paid what they are, nearly $70 million combined.
Right.
But this week, at some point, the proof does need to come through.
I will say the one kind of, I'm not going to say concern, but the thing that bears watching is this rotation between Hobbs and Valentine. That's got to stop because Hobbs just ain't getting it done right now.
Nags, always appreciate it, brother. We'll be back next week on Tuesday.
Carrying the G after a big pass.